welcome to Cinema Convos. This is the show where we bring guests with different tastes in film. I'm your host, Yash, and I'm here with two guests today. We have Samid and Liam, and today we are discussing the film Jurassic Park from 1993, directed by Steven Spielberg and starring Sam Neill, Jeff Goldblum, and Laura Dern. And before we get started today, just wanted to issue a quick spoiler warning. We will get into spoilers for this movie and likely some of the sequels, so you've been warned. Just watch the movie before checking this out. And with that, I'd like to get started with my first question for both of you today, which is, what's your first memory or best memory with this movie?
Well, so my first memory, this whole movie has kind of defined my life thus far. I'm currently working on getting my PhD in paleontology. But the earliest memory, I remember going to Skeeter's Grill in Houston, and it was on the TV. It was the T-Rex attack, and I distinctly remember the T-Rex, roaring as we left, only to go home and turn it on there. I was terrified by the spitter, the Dilophosaurus, and now that dinosaur is my favorite dinosaur. So
cool. What about you, Samid?
Well, as a little kid, I must have been like 4 or 5 years old, just remembering having in my household having The Lost World, Jurassic Park, and Jurassic Park. But funny story is, I started with The Lost World. I never started with Jurassic Park. So one day I was looking through my VHS and I saw Jurassic Park and I asked my mom, "Hey mom, can I watch this?" And she was like, "I don't know. Can you handle it?" And I was like, "Mom, I'm watching The Lost World. I'll handle this." Turns out it was a lot more scarier than I imagined. But at the same time, I was just like, wow, this is amazing. This is real. Like, I had in my mind, yes, dinosaurs do exist in this island, down in Costa Rica, on an island.
I'm a little surprised that you thought the original was scarier. I don't know, in The Lost World, the raptors in the grass, the compies jumping all over the guy.
Yeah, that's the funniest thing too. It's like, for some reason, The Lost World, I wasn't as scared of it. I mean, I should have been. I mean, like you pointed out, I mean, there were a couple of jump scares, but for me, I was just like, oh, okay. But for Jurassic Park, I was like, oh, good God. Oh. So, I mean, it's kind of weird, but yeah, apparently Jurassic Park was like my first, as a kid, like a horror kind of a thing going.
Come on. We gotta get out of here. Now, right now. Go. Let's go. Let's go faster.
So for me, it's kind of similar in the sense that, like, the earliest, I actually avoided watching this movie my whole childhood because we had it on VHS, and I think my parents told me, like, we tried to show it to you as a kid and you were just mortified. So I stayed clear from it for a long time. And I got around to watching it in high school, and I was like, it's time to watch. Like, I think at that point, like, Jurassic World had been announced, so I was like, I better get on this train and like make sure I'm up to date.
Oh wow! So this is like, because I remember back in high school when we would talk.
Yeah, it was around then where I watched it. Like,
yeah, because I would draw a reference about Jurassic Park, because that's when they announced it. They were going to make Jurassic Park 4. That they didn't say Jurassic World or anything, but they just said, we're making another Jurassic Park. And that's when I told you about it. And you're like, oh yeah, I haven't seen that. I was like, wait, what?
It's like, maybe I've seen it as a kid, but my brain has repressed it to like not remember it.
And you hadn't seen any of them? Not 1, not 2, not 3?
No, I hadn't. Now I've seen all of them, but at that point in time, I had just started. I watched the first one, then I watched the trilogy, and then I watched, like, the last two I watched in the theater. So I'm caught up until then. But yeah, I think this movie is obviously like going to be scary for little kids, but like, I actually just finished like watching it again just now, and I think what it does so well, like, even when you know what's going to happen, it just builds tension super well, and like in certain scenes, they quite literally put you on the edge of your seat. And I think that's why this is one of those movies that if I had a time machine, I would go like try to see this movie in a theater like on opening weekend, because I can only imagine what the reaction must have been, because like it's a great blockbuster, but also the visual effects are so convincing for the 90s or even now. Like they're just impressive. Like whenever I watch a movie in the modern age that has bad special effects, I'm like, they have no excuse, because Jurassic Park has good effects, and that's like over 20 years old.
And they were
Yeah.
using like the Macintosh computers that we were using back in preschool. I mean, think about that. They were using Macintosh computers that today, if someone talks about it, we'd be like how much memory? You know how much memory my MacBook uses? It uses more than that.
It's crazy. I mean, I know that it has to do a lot with like, how they depict them and the fact that they weren't trying to fill, the entire movie with dinosaurs. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that the dinosaurs are only in it for like 15 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. So, that's certainly helpful. But I would have loved to see it in theaters, just because of how revolutionary it was. My dad, he'll often talk about Star Wars, the first shot with the Star Destroyer coming over, how he had never seen anything like that. And I can imagine that for a bunch of people, when the Brachiosaurus comes across the screen for the first time, that's, that was probably a lot of people's moment where, they had never seen anything like that.
And what's great about cinema in general is that more than likely, like every film lover will have that moment in the theater at some point, because they're always, for the most part, I like to think that people are being innovative and trying new things.
Another thing that you mentioned was how the movie builds tension so well. So I seriously think that the movie has geared me towards movies that do really good tension.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just something about building expectations, and I don't know, a lot. I mean, not to jump to another movie again, but another one that I like is the 2014 Godzilla film, which a lot of people hate because it doesn't really show off the monsters a lot, but that's another one that gets tension really right. And I think Jurassic Park is a big reason for why I like that film so much. So
yeah, I was actually gonna say that. I was actually gonna get that reference because I wasn't even sure if I should put that reference, because that was the one thing that I constantly have debates with people on, because I have some people talking about, oh, it was amazing, Godzilla King of Monsters was apparently one of the best Godzilla movies. I'm like, no, it wasn't. The best one that I thought for me was 2014 Godzilla, because even though they had Godzilla for a very, like they said, apparently it was 5 to 6 minutes, but just like in Jurassic Park, having that little amount of minutes, but having the dinosaurs showcase when they need to be shown, puts you in the right place. The perfect tension, the perfect suspense on what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. I mean, for us now, we know when exactly that dinosaur is going to attack or when that moment's going to come. But for watching Godzilla in the theaters for the first time, I mean, just a couple of scenes, you're just like, oh God, this is beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same boat for the 2014 Godzilla, because I remember, again, when it came out, I think I was still in high school, and I didn't see it until like a few weeks after it had been out. But so many people were like, yeah, it's boring, like there's not many scenes of Godzilla in it. And so I was just like, I don't know what to expect from this movie, because like I want to see it. But then I saw it and I was like, that's not at all what I heard about the movie. Like this movie, yeah, Godzilla is only like at the end, spoiler alert if you haven't seen 2014 Godzilla, but I liked it much more than the newest one they made, because I thought it had a solid story. We're talking about Godzilla now, but real quick, just like
we can
how
it's fine.
How the two,
we're talking about reptiles here.
I mean, how the two films are similar is that they don't have like a lot of screen time isn't dedicated to showing like, I guess, what you came for, but when you do see it, it's spectacular and it's worth the wait. So that's how I mean, it's like, and like in Godzilla and Jurassic Park, like all the buildup is good too. Like it's world building. You get to see some characters, and I mean, I think Jurassic Park actually has a much lighter tone than Godzilla did. 2014 Godzilla. Like, yeah, it's serious when it needs to be, but also like you have characters like Jeff Goldblum, who's kind of like kooky and just saying hilarious stuff. To be honest, in my opinion, and
Well,
it's more of like, I guess it's more of a fun movie. I don't know. That's just how I see
it's got that Spielberg charm.
Right.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
the tone of Jurassic Park is it's incredible to me because it sure has its scary and thrilling moments, but it also has a greater sense of awe and wonder than most movies, honestly, than any movie that I can really think of. I can't really think of too many movies that have a scene like when the Brachiosaurus shows up, or even when they're flying to the island, where you're just meant to sit back and be like, wow, this is so beautiful. I don't know, do y'all think, are there other examples of that?
At first, I was thinking of Jaws, but then I was like, no, Jaws does not have that moment. Jaws has that opening that we still remember, about that opening soundtrack going da da da. I mean, that for us, Jaws is like, oh, that is some scary stuff is gonna happen like any second now. But with Jurassic Park is, you have that build up right in the beginning. You see the crate coming down. You hear the raptor, and then as the dude's about to pick up the gate, all of a sudden raptor hits gate, dude goes down, and everyone's scrambling. No one knows what's going on. And give about 10-20 minutes give about 5-10 minutes in the movie, you see Allie Grant out there with his girlfriend digging up a dinosaur bone, and then him explaining to a kid that you have to look at dinosaur with respect, otherwise it's going to attack you later on, which turned out to be like a spoiler alert early in the movie. But
what's interesting about that scene is just like, it's almost like his character is like speaking to the audience. Like, it's almost like foreshadowing when he's talking to this kid and like trying to scare him. It's like, it almost adds more attention to the whole experience, even though it's like a lighthearted and like kind of funny scene. But when you look at like how the movie plays out, it's like, oh, this guy is definitely saying like, don't mess with the wrong dinosaurs,
basically, yeah. And that's something that you wouldn't realize. That's something. It's like, it's almost like I agree with you, Yash. It is like a forewarning from the elder man, from a wise man. Like, son, do not go that path. You will get eaten. He'd be like, I don't care about you, old man. Well, the old man was right.
Well, and it's interesting now that you mentioned this, because for that first time experience of watching the movie, you don't know what's in the crate. It's a dinosaur. You don't know what it is. And so then, jumps to the amber mine, jumps to the Montana dig site. They're digging up a raptor, and Grant talks about it, and you're like, oh, that's cool. It's a dinosaur. And then, through the getting to the island and seeing everything, and he's in the hatchery holding the baby raptor, and he says, hey, what species is this? And Wu is like, well, it's a velociraptor. That was probably the first time that a lot of audience members had ever heard the name velociraptor, because before Jurassic Park, raptors, they were neat if you were a dinosaur nerd, but like public conscience, people didn't really know about them. And then Jurassic Park went and put it on the map. And that Wu saying that.
And also, if I want to add it up, having a basketball team called the Toronto Raptors. So
that's true. That's true. Credit where
it kind of opens up a wider audience.
Actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think they might have gotten their name after Jurassic Park. I think they might have.
They did.
No, they did. Okay.
Yeah. I still find it funny is they're like you're in the north part of the world, and you're like, guys, we need a good team name. Now, what should we choose? And the one dude's like, Raptors.
Forget about the meeting. Is just like he starts playing the Jurassic Park theme music, and then like, say no more.
Yeah, say no more.
It's a badass name.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, they won a championship. I mean,
yeah, but I don't know, that movie defined dinosaurs to a lot of people. And, one of the main ways that they defined, the concept of a dinosaur is raptors are a really important dinosaur. And from then to even now, people love raptors.
Tim, can you tell me what they are?
Gala, Gallimimus.
The wheeling uniform direction changes, just like a flock of birds evading a predator.
They're flocking this way.
Yeah, I mean, just going back to how you mentioned, like in the first scene, you don't see what's in the crate, but you're already like it kind of hooks you in, and you're like, you're ready to see what happens in this movie. And I think it's very prevalent in good like horror or thriller movies that they don't show you everything right away. They let because that generates an inherent fear in the viewer because you're like, what's gonna happen? I don't even know what I'm scared of, but I know I'm scared of something. And a lot of movies can succumb to showing things too soon, or even worse, showing something in the trailer before the movie's even out. And I think, obviously I wasn't alive to see what the trailers for Jurassic Park were like, but I think this movie, as far as the movie goes, does a good job of like, introducing you to the world like very abruptly with an intense scene, and then kind of letting you learn a little bit about it when leading up to the incredible like T-Rex attack, which is my favorite scene in the movie, I think, by far. Does a good job of like, it shows what it needs to show you at the right times, which is why I think so many people enjoy it.
Well, and it's interesting because I mean, if either of you have ever read the book, um, the book starts with the aftermath of the raptor attack from the perspective of a nurse in a hospital in Costa Rica. And, it's storming outside and they hear a helicopter coming in and they bring in this dude who's been just absolutely torn up. And Ed Regis, one of the main characters of the novel who didn't get translated to the movie, he's kind of the public relations manager of the park. He was like, "Oh yeah, it was a construction accident. He got messed up, working on a road, and the doctor can tell this wasn't a road, this was an animal." That would also have been a very effective way to start the movie if they were trying to make a much darker movie. I feel I champion the idea of, if we ever find that there is a Jurassic Park reboot, I feel that HBO should pick it up and do a period piece,
Yeah.
8-part series, more closely adapting the novel, because the first scene is scary, but it's very
So relatively safe, like for this
yeah.
movie.
Well, and it's real, but it's not like the real world.
Mhm.
It's there's the cool pen. All these guys have these taser rods. Muldoon, he's got his shotgun. Looks awesome. I don't know. It's an interesting tone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't read the book myself, so I never really saw it from that lens. But yeah, it's cool to know. Have you read the book, Samid?
Yeah, I read the book, and I do have this question, Liam. I mean, think about this: if they would have brought that opening in that book, I can imagine right now, like in my mind, like okay, I know how the characters look from the movies. I can imagine that, but my question is, I mean, for a Spielberg movie, what is that thing in a Spielberg movie that wants to draw on you? It's always has to have that opening kick. If you have that opening kick, you draw the audience in. You draw them into an idea of like, oh, something's about to go down here. I mean, it could be with Jaws being that scene, the girls like swimming in the ocean, and then the theme song comes, all of a sudden, there's your opening. Velociraptor, it's that scene with everyone's with shotguns, everyone's with electric stunners, and then dude's out here with the gate, and all of a sudden, dude goes down, boom, Velociraptor. I could even say this: even the movies that Steven Spielberg produced, I just imagined about Men in Black. Even though that was a comic base, Spielberg was producing it. But I had that moment, refugees, in the desert of Texas or Arizona, because they don't really clarify it. but it had that moment in which it was like have everyone lined up. All of a sudden, Tommy Lee Jones and the supporting characters there as well. They started talking to the people. Turns out one dude is not acting right at all. Boom, right there, alien. So even in those scenes, you always want that Spielberg's moment. And Spielberg's moment is, I need to have that pop. I need that kick to bring that audience in, to have that moment to draw them in to the moment, which I think that's kind of a Spielberg charm for that. And I just want to also mention, Yash, on YouTube, I was just randomly trying to see like the teaser trailer for Jurassic Park, The Lost World, and Jurassic Park 3. And in Jurassic Park, the teaser trailer, how it starts is that they go to an emperor farm, basically, and you see a bunch of dudes, digging through and getting all these ambers. And then it's going to a scientist who is drilling it. And then there's a narrator who's explaining about how this place in Costa Rica they found, and then finally man and prehistoric creatures. They don't say dinosaurs; it's the prehistoric creatures will coexist with each other. But they don't show. I mean, the only thing you know is a dinosaur, like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, who henceforth wearing that shirt right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they show. And
Yeah,
then they go,
it's-
Spielberg will show you, this summer and something.
Yeah, I genuinely wish trailers were still like that for the most part, just giving
Yeah, I
you
wish
just
too.
enough to grab you, but not giving away a single thing. But yeah, you mentioned Steven Spielberg's, I guess, kind of his style and what you expect when you see a Spielberg film. But I just wanted to, Steven Spielberg is one of the most like prolific directors of all time, like without a doubt. Whether he's made movies you loved, hated, like he's made so many movies, and he's made enough great movies to where you're like, okay, this guy is the real deal. But I was curious, like, besides, because Jurassic Park isn't my favorite Spielberg film, I like it a lot, but I was curious, what are some other movies directed by him that stand out to you? Because I had a few that I wanted to mention.
For me personally, this is going to be, I don't know if this is like one of the movies that you might have heard of. It's called The Terminal. It's made by Steven Spielberg.
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, Tom Hanks is in it, and it's sort of based on a true story about this dude who was in the France, I think the Paris International Airport. Basically stayed there for 27 years. But for me, that has to be my underrated Spielberg movie because not a lot of people know about it.
Mhm.
But how this movie is based on this one person who's stuck in JFK, who can't leave the country because his country is in the midst of things, and he's basically stuck in an airport. He can't do anything. So for me personally, that is my, like, if I had to choose the next movie over Jurassic Park of a Steven Spielberg, it has to be The Terminal.
What about you, Liam?
Well, I, do run counter to your point. Jurassic Park is my favorite Spielberg and all-time film.
Right.
But here I'm gonna throw a controversial opinion out there. I actually don't like Jaws. And I know we already talked about it, but so I had heard all these years how awesome Jaws was, how great of a movie, how great of a Spielberg film. And so when I finally watched it, people had always compared it to Jurassic Park. And
Right.
so it lacked the sense of awe and wonder that Jurassic Park had. It was, entirely a horror film.
Mm-hmm.
And that just didn't grab me at all. Now, admittedly, it could be because I watched it while I was spending a week as part of a sailing crew out in the Florida Keys. So, sharks in the water. But, it's...
I mean, I can see that because I also, when I first saw Jaws, I'd also heard, like, this is the greatest blockbuster ever made, like those type of comments, right? And so my expectations were very high. I also don't think it's a perfect movie. I think it's a lot slower paced than like I expected in a lot of parts of it. But one thing Jaws does do tremendously well for me is that obviously the score is iconic, but the way the score is used to create just tension and fear, and like alert the audience that danger is coming, but also like you don't know where it's gonna come from, like what angle. And yeah, I just think one thing I think Jaws and Jurassic Park have in common is just the use of, I guess, practical effects with like the T-Rex and the animatronics they used. And with Jaws, I know they tried to use like, I don't know much about it, but they did use like practical things to like create effects.
Well, they had they had their big animatronic shark, but they made it, and Spielberg saw how it looked, and he said, "Oh, I can't put that in my movie." And so that's actually the reason that they hide the shark so much. Originally the shark was going to be in the movie a whole lot more.
Right.
And then when Spielberg actually saw the prop, and it didn't look as good as he wanted, he said, maybe we should try something else. And of course the shark was working with water, so that didn't help.
Right.
And fun fact, the T-Rex, also had to work in water. Thing is, the T-Rex, when it would get too wet, it would start shuddering and shaking. And some of the documentaries from the film, they'll talk about how the T-Rex would be off, but it would start shaking and moving like it was alive. Some of the crew members were ready to bolt out of the set. Anyway, the point of this tangent is that animatronics and water, at least 93 and before, did not go well together. So,
but you also got to think, without that amazing scene of the T-Rex enclosure, we wouldn't have like the most amazing scene in the 90s, basically.
Oh, I would agree. I'm so glad that they figured out how to make animatronics work in the rain. We've already talked about how wonderful the effects are in Jurassic Park. It would be a real shame if we hadn't done that. They were originally thinking about using claymation for the dinosaurs. I believe Phil Tippett was going to be using claymation dinosaurs, and then who was it? Stan Winston? One of those guys.
Sam Winston. I mean, he was the dude who made the animatronic dinosaurs.
Okay, not him then. Oh man, I can't remember the name, but someone made it in a computer, made it CG, and they did a screen test, showed it to Steven Spielberg, and that's what they decided to go with. And actually, that's the line where Alan is talking with Ellie after they've seen the park and is like, "So what do you think?" "Well, we're out of a job." And then Malcolm comes up and he says, "Don't you mean extinct?" That line, I'm pretty sure, comes from when the stop motion guys saw the CG guys and what they were doing, out of a job.
How fast are they? Well, we clocked the T-Rex at 32 miles an hour.
T-Rex?
Mm-hmm.
You said you've got a T-Rex?
Uh-huh. Say again. We have a T-Rex.
Going back to the films of Steven Spielberg, for me, I think he has 3 films that are considered masterpieces for different reasons. Schindler's List, obviously, very impactful film, made the same year as Jurassic Park. So what a year for this guy. Schindler's List, definitive movie about the Holocaust. Really tough to ever watch again, but everyone should watch it at least once. Saving Private Ryan, one of the most, again, this guy just defines different genres, but definitive World War II movie. Also a movie that I don't really seek out watching again, but is definitely worth watching. But I think the movie that not as many people talk about is a movie called Minority Report. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's a movie with Tom Cruise from 2002, and it is just one of the most mind-blowing science fiction movies I've ever seen. The concept of the movie is literally they can see a crime before it happens, and then they stop it from happening. And it's just, that alone should like sell you to watch that movie. But yeah, Steven Spielberg is just, even when he makes a bad movie, it can't damage his career. His career can't be touched. It's just like, it's at that point.
I do feel that one we should mention, just because we need to mention it, is E.T. for being wonderful. But
totally agree on that one.
E.T.,
Thank you.
first 3 Indiana Jones movies.
He directed them?
I think so.
No, I thought it was George Lucas. George Lucas.
Let me
I think
check.
he produced.
Let me confirm.
Because if
I
we're
mean,
talking, if he directed them,
I think he directed them.
well, okay, then in that
Okay.
case, those are some other Spielberg movies we need to talk about because those
Oh,
are
yes.
incredible.
Yeah,
Along with Jurassic Park, they define who I am.
I was expecting you to mention them, Liam.
Oh my god! Oh my god, is he nuts?
You know nuts. He's crazy.
Molaram, prepare to meet Kali in hell. Oh! Put out of the way!
So when we were talking about that Spielberg hook at the beginning of the movie with the building of tension, Indiana Jones, obviously. You know, you're going through the jungle, you're seeing all these guys, all their stuff. You know, people are getting scared because of statues, and there's this dude just keeping his cool, rocking a leather jacket. Then one of these guys is gonna shoot him. We don't know why. We don't know who these guys are. And pulling up the gun, and then bam, you hear the crack of the whip. You know, the bad guy runs off, and then out of the shadows, bam, Harrison Ford. Except, sure, he's Harrison Ford, but also he's kind of transcended that and become Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I get confused when it comes to the Indiana Jones movies about the relationship between George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. But credit is needed here. Steven Spielberg, Indiana Jones. There you go. Discuss.
For a movie like Indiana Jones, I mean, Steven Spielberg has a mind in which he's able to generate so many different genres. It could be romantic comedy, typical rom-com. It could be a war movie. It could be action adventure. It could be sci-fi. It could be a movie like The Adventures of Tintin, which in America, no one knows anything about Tintin. He basically brought the introduction of Tintin to America when the rest of the world already know it. My mom knows about Tintin. I did not know about Tintin. And she was so
I
hyped
actually
about
did
the
know about
movie.
Tintin, so I was like, "Yeah, they're making a movie for the U.S. Amazing."
Yeah, and that's something that I never knew about. I mean, to me, growing up in Pakistan and living in Pakistan, I kind of knew about Tintin, and I was like, oh, okay.
Just
But it doesn't
great,
beat Indiana Jones.
great mystery series for kids. Just yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, if he makes a movie, it is almost like guaranteed at least one Oscar nomination, like by default. Yeah, but I mean, I just named some of the greats, but he's made many movies that are very good. Like I love the movie Catch Me If You Can with DiCaprio. Incredible
Another
movie
good one.
based on a true story. But yeah, Indiana Jones is in general one of the most definitive adventure franchises, I think. Every movie is kind of has its own thing going. I think Raiders of the Lost Ark is my favorite, but I've grown to appreciate the third film more than my initial viewing. Because I remember I watched it the first time and I was a little underwhelmed by it, but over the years I'm like, no, this is a really fun, entertaining movie. The second movie is a little dark and has questionable portrayals of Indian people, but
Yeah, I think I don't drink. I have monkey soup on daily basis.
But no, I mean it's a scary movie. It's one of the main reasons PG-13 exists, because it was so scary when it came out. It like traumatized many kids.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
we are going to die.
yeah.
I
One of
mean,
the great
a man
quotes.
gets his heart ripped out. So
Yeah,
I'll do it.
well, and I don't know. People don't like the second as much, and
Mhm.
no one's ever really quantified that for me.
Right.
Um,
I
kinda-
still like the second movie. I don't have any it's still an entertaining movie. It just feels tonally a lot different than the other two.
It's like this. I mean, I would think it more of a, like, we would say second, but this is more like the first movie, and
The prequel, right?
That's the second movie.
Yeah, and it is a prequel. I think it's 2 years before Raiders.
Yeah.
So I think it's also because it's like a prequel. That's why everyone's like, I guess it doesn't have the
I
same.
thought it was kind of cool. That is kind of a bold move for like a second movie. Prequels typically don't come around until later on. So I mean, I gotta give props to Spielberg for that, for making such
Well,
a
but it's
bold move.
also it's subtle because I honestly did not know that it was a prequel until recently. You know,
It's a
the only
small
way you'd
detail.
know. Yeah, I mean, it's not like he runs into Belloc early on. It's not like you see him and his dad fight, anything like that.
Like knowing it's a prequel doesn't really change your enjoyment of the film like that much. But yeah.
But the third,
Mhm.
that's a chef's kiss. I
Yeah.
don't know. I really enjoy it. Soundtrack too.
Third movie is fun. It's a very solid adventure movie that's entertaining like the whole way through.
Well, and it was funny because the opening scene takes place in Arches National Park. So if you're ever there, you can actually see some of the shots from the opening of the film. Spring break, I went to Arches National Park and I posted a picture, and someone was like, "Hey, that's the first shot of Indiana Jones," and I was like, "What?" And then I watched it, and sure enough, so
nice. And I will say this is gonna be a little unpopular. The fourth movie is not perfect, but I don't think it's a bad movie, and that might be controversial to say on here.
No, it's you're not wrong about that. I personally, I sometimes enjoyed the fourth one.
It's not as good as the other three, but I mean, you get to see Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones again, and that's always fun. Like
yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, you do have Shia LaBeouf. I mean, but at the same time, it's like it's all right. I mean, I can watch it on any other day.
I've never really had a problem with Shia LaBeouf. I think he's kind of an underrated actor, to be honest. Especially in the last few years.
Agree.
He's really done some incredible work.
I want him to be in the fifth one.
Yeah, they're also, speaking of just what he has on the way.
Well, there's Jurassic Park 6 and Indiana Jones 5.
But I believe he's directing Indiana Jones 5.
I believe he is too.
He's doing the remake for West Side Story. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, but I think because of COVID,
it's
they delayed it.
Yeah, everything got delayed. But
yeah, this year it just basically became on delay.
It's like, look, we'll give you Tenet, and then you guys can just chill till next year.
Tenet gets all the Oscars. That's it.
Yeah, everything. I told you that's exactly what was gonna happen.
Mulan, who?
Yeah, we don't even want to talk about that. Oh, so you pay $30 for Mulan? Joke's on you.
Yeah, I just couldn't do it. I'm like, I already pay for Disney Plus, and I heard this movie. I've heard so many mixed things about this movie. Just why are we talking about Mulan? I don't know. But real quick, I was just like, in general, speaking in the culture of streaming services, it's like if I pay for the subscription, I'm not paying more to watch the movie. I'm sorry.
Oh,
yeah, I mean, if it's a Spielberg movie, if it's a Nolan film, if it's Scorsese, Tarantino, then it's different. Then it's like, okay, we can talk, but not for a live action remake.
Yeah.
Let me actually put this question out. I think this is something I was kind of interested from your guys' opinions. Now, we have seen Jurassic World. You know, it was great. They're back on the island and everything. But the one thing I think we could all agree, the CGI and the visual effects and the practical effects were way off. They weren't the same magnifique as to Jurassic Park, The Lost World, or even Jurassic Park 3. It didn't have the same flow to it. And
Jurassic Park 3 is actually very underrated from an effects standpoint. I honestly think that movie might have the best dinosaur effects.
Oh, no doubt. I totally agree that Jurassic Park 3 has the best visual practical effects out there.
I can give my quick take on the sequels because I have kind of an interesting opinion on them, and then I'll continue to ask you guys as well. But for me, okay, Jurassic Park is the best. Like, that's almost undebatable out of all five so far. But honestly, I don't know what it is, but I enjoyed Jurassic World, like the first one. I think that's my favorite sequel of the bunch because it's just I went into I was actually also, this is kind of, you can see the global influence of Jurassic Park, but I was in India when that movie came out, and my mom, brother, and I went to go see it in a theater, and it was a full theater, and it was just like incredible to see a movie reach a whole different audience. But it was a blockbuster that I had fun with. Maybe you can make a case like the visuals were a little like too focused on CGI. That's fair, but just that ending, it's so awesome. I don't know, it's just so fun for me. I mean, obviously, like, okay, Bryce Dallas Howard's running in high heels, like, that's dumb. But then the dinosaurs fight. That's cool. And I think I feel this way primarily because I don't really like the second movie, The Lost World. I don't hate it. I just think it's kind of it has to follow Jurassic Park, which is a tough act to follow. But it's just not it doesn't do anything for me. And I think Jurassic Park 3 is actually fairly underrated because as you guys said, the visual effects are good, but it's also just like a fun movie. It's not nearly as good as Jurassic Park, but I enjoy watching it. Like it's like a fast-paced, I believe like 90-minute thriller. So while we're getting into it, for Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom, I was disappointed by that one. I thought could have been a lot better. I don't think any of these movies are bad for the record.
I think that's a
Totally.
fair point.
Also, we have to see where the franchise is going.
Is there a problem?
Animals raised in isolation aren't always the most functional.
Your raptors are born in captivity.
With siblings, they learn social skills, and I imprint on them when they're born. There's trust. The only positive relationship this animal has is with that crane. At least she knows that means food.
I'm ready for them to get off the island. So I'll do my really quick ranking. Jurassic Park, The Lost World, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, Jurassic World, Jurassic Park 3. Now, why is that? I felt that Fallen Kingdom had heart that Jurassic World did not. Jurassic World, to me, felt very much like a committee movie. Like, check all your Jurassic Park boxes. Divorced parents, great, and other check boxes that are on the list that aren't coming to me right now. I feel that Fallen Kingdom has some more dumb moments in it, but it just has a lot more heart, and I felt very interested by it. As a paleontologist, I don't love the hybrids, but to me, I am more interested by the Indoraptor than the Indominus Rex. Though, funny thing, if you're actually going into scientific naming, Indominus Rex means indomitable king. Indoraptor means Indian thief. So, fun fact, getting the dinosaurs off the island, that is something that goes all the way back to, the original novel, where, spoilers, some of the dinosaurs get to the mainland. I mean, this has been a long time coming, and I'm very interested to see how it goes. I hope that they do it well. I hope that they add some feathered dinosaurs, not replacing the classic designs, just adding more. And I hope that is done well. But other than that, I'm very interested to see them off the island.
Yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued by that. I just with Fallen Kingdom, I guess, and this is a personal thing. I don't know if everyone will feel this way. I don't expect everyone to feel this way, but I watched that movie, then the ending happens, and I'm just like, I don't buy it. I don't know. I couldn't see it happening. But again, it's just one man's opinion. But yeah, I'm excited to see one thing that's kind of a minor gripe. It's kind of how these movies that are sequels for older movies, like it's a whole new franchise in a way. But like Jeff Goldblum is in one scene that's in the trailer. It's like you have Jeff Goldblum, use him, and like I want to see more of the old cast, like have more to do besides like say one thing and then be like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if I had to point it out in rankings perspective, for me, it has Jurassic Park, then it's Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, The Lost World, and Jurassic Park 3. The reason why I putting Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom above to The Lost World is because finally, as Liam has stated in the book as well, that the dinosaurs are finally into the mainland. That's finally what I kind of wanted to see. I want to see, all right, you got the dinosaurs. That's great. When are you going to put them in the mainland? When are you going to bring that coexist between dinosaurs and man? But if you guys know about this, last year, Colin actually did a short film it was called The Battle of Little Rock, and he actually had a scene in which it was a dinosaur and a human coexisting together, which I thought was the best way to set up for a Jurassic Park film, for Jurassic World 6, because finally we're getting a movie that we're gonna have. There's, as Jeff Goldblum said in The Lost World, all right, there's another island with no fences this time. So this time there are no fences. There's nothing there. It's just you're basically having dinosaurs and humans coexist, or as Alexander would say, dinosaurs and man separated by 65 million years, and all of a sudden are together. How can we possibly imagine what we could live together? So, I mean, I'm to be honest, I'm excited for Jurassic World 6.
I mean, I'm excited for them. I like what I admire what it was setting up for. I think that just the execution of the movie was not as entertaining to me. But I think if they stick the landing with this next one, it can definitely maybe make the second movie a better movie, like in retrospect.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like this is that when Jurassic Park 3 came out, I mean, as me being a second grader watching this in summer vacation, I remember the hype. I mean, for me, it was another Jurassic Park movie. I would watch it if it was really trashy. I'll tell my parents I want to go ahead and watch it. But now it's like, if someone tells me that, if someone ever goes like, "Oh, I don't like Jurassic Park movies," and that's like, I'm like, "All right, but which one?" They're like, "Oh, I don't like any of it." Then I go like, "All right, you gotta explain why you don't like it. What is the main purpose that you don't like it? Is it because of the CGI? Is it because of the character development? Is it because of the fast pace of the movie, the slow pace of the movie, the scene, the act? What was it that you don't like about?" To be honest, I mean, if I had to put like a franchise movie that everyone like talks about, I mean, Yash remember this more than me about the Transformers movie. I mean, in high school, you remember this, Yash? Back in high school, how much hype there was for a Transformers movie than for a Jurassic Park movie, because
that was. I mean, they made 5 of those, and that franchise started in 07. So, but yeah, I mean, actually, no, they made 6 if you count Bumblebee. But
the good one.
The good one. Yeah, the good one.
I like the very first Transformers movie, but yeah, I mean, honestly, I like all of them except for the 5th one, because when I watched them, I was a lot younger, and my expectations from a movie were not nearly as high. So I look at them as just like kind of like mindless entertainment. But yeah, I mean, in general, when a franchise has been going on this long, it's hard to keep things interesting or fresh. So I think that's something that it's already encountered. Like outside of the first movie, I think every movie has noticeable flaws. But yeah, I mean, it's a successful franchise. I went to see Fallen Kingdom in theaters. I had to get tickets for a different showtime because there was lines out the door, and people were like, as long as a franchise will make money, they will make movies about it. Like that's just how it works. We will live to see another Star Wars movie, most likely. Like an example. Oh, yeah. I guess in general, that's pretty interesting. I think it's kind of cool that we all have Jurassic Park at the top. Then afterwards, like the ranking is kind of staggered.
Well,
for me, real quick, it's Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, Jurassic Park 3, and then Fallen Kingdom and The Lost World are kind of tied for last for me.
Okay.
Yeah. But none of them are bad movies. They're all still good.
If a series goes too long, it'll kind of lose its identity.
Yeah.
You know, the first 2 movies, they had a moral.
And
the third movie, I guess the moral was divorce is bad.
The third movie is it's
a fun
nowhere
movie.
Near as complex.
I think we could all agree it's a fun movie.
Yeah. I enjoyed Jurassic Park 3. I think it's the most underrated in the series.
And I enjoyed it. But I feel like getting back to getting the dinosaurs off the island, that kind of brings the series back to the message of the original of you can't control nature, and that we're not above that. You know, that was a really big moral dilemma in the book, was okay, these creatures exist and they don't exist in a vacuum. They are in our world. When we talk modern times about de-extinction, the actual science of bringing animals back from extinction, there are tons of discussions about it. Where will they go? What will they eat? I mean, you're not going to just breed them to stick them in a zoo. You have to actually have a plan for them and a place for them on our planet. And so I really hope that Jurassic Park 6, Jurassic World 3, I hope that
Explore
it
some of those ideas.
yeah, I hope that it uses those ideas and uses them well.
John, the kind of control you're attempting is it's not possible. Listen, if there's one thing the history of evolution has taught us, it's that life will not be contained. Life breaks free, it expands to new territories, and it crashes through barriers painfully, maybe even dangerously, but...
You're implying that a group composed entirely of female animals will breed?
No, I'm simply saying that life finds a way.
For sure. I totally agree with you. And in that regard, the franchise is kind of returning to its roots and what it's like about. So
I'll tell you this, that when Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom came out, and I was watching with friends of mine, like my movie group that I have here in Tulsa, we go and watch big blockbusters movies together. And after the movie, I had one of my friends who was like, all right, Jurassic Park is over. It's done. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, this movie, it just went completely off rails. And I was going to say, but isn't all Jurassic Park movies off the rails? I mean, there's always something in it that is always unexpected that you go like, oh crap, I didn't think about that. And there were like all these articles coming. He wasn't the first one to say that, but just reading on other articles, and they were saying the same thing. Oh, they can't get an idea in. They can't figure it out. But then I was just like, maybe that's kind of what trying to put you in that direction. It's like, yes, I think we could all agree that Fallen Kingdom was a filler movie. We could all agree, as Avengers: Age of Ultron was as a filler Avengers movie.
Right.
You two can agree on that. I'll hold a different viewpoint, but continue. Keep going.
Okay. It was a filler movie. So for me, it's like, Jurassic Park 6 or Jurassic World 3, this might be kind of like the Infinity War kind of a thing for me. Not it'll be a grand span kind of a thing of finally bringing it together, finally bringing the original series and bringing the new series together, bringing the old and the new together, and going, this is what you guys wanted. This is something that we've been dreaming about. So here you go, guys.
Yeah, there's lots of potential for it, I think.
Well, so I am kind of interested to see how that merger is going to go, because the first film happened in a real world with real people that could really happen. The Jurassic World films are not that. They are action films, and the people in them don't totally act like people. That's not a bad thing. That's not to say that's a bad thing. It's just it's a difference in tone. And so I'm interested to see, like, how are the portrayals of the classic characters going to be? Are they going to be the real people that they were in the original, or are they going to be more stylized? Kind of like Owen Grady and Claire Dearing.
Yeah, for sure. Moving forward, I would like, I've already mentioned earlier that that my favorite scene is the T-Rex attack that happens about halfway. I was curious if that was also your favorite scene, or if you guys had a different approach to that or different opinion on that. Because there's many scenes that could be considered iconic in this movie. So I'm just curious what you guys want to say about that.
If we had to put it now, if we're talking about the whole series, are we sticking with Jurassic Park?
Jurassic Park. Just Jurassic
Park. Has to be the kitchen scene.
The kitchen scene, yeah, the kitchen scene is really good.
I mean, that is pure terror right there. Yeah, that is pure terror, because that is something. Because a T-Rex is like, it's huge, it's big, you can hide, now move, all right, you're safe. But that one was almost human size and literally stalking kids. Just how it starts.
Whenever kids are in danger, it's just inherently more terrifying in any movie. Like my mom hates when kids are in danger in movies. She can't watch. She hates it. But yeah, that's also a really great scene. I was wondering, Liam, if you had anything to add.
Oh, the first time they see the Brachiosaurus, that's my favorite.
I actually predicted that would be your favorite scene.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a 3-foot tall Brachiosaurus on the counter in my kitchen, and so
yeah,
you know, that scene, just the build up. I mean, even starting from when they're in the helicopter to when Grant asks, "How'd you do this?" and Hammond says, "I'll show you." Like that whole sequence,
right,
for me is just kind of a perfect movie sequence, because it introduces you to the characters and you have so much fun with them, seeing how they interact. You're like, why does that lawyer have 5-inch inseam shorts and stuff like that?
I still don't understand, why would you wear shorts with a suit on?
It's Costa Rica, man. It's business casual, I guess.
Okay.
But you have fun. You get to know the characters, and then you see, oh my god, it's this beautiful island. And that enough is a spectacle. They come down on the waterfall, and the music, I can't even express to you guys how the music to that movie makes me feel.
The score is one of the most iconic scores, I think, of all time.
It's good. It's just, I can't express it. You can hear how much I can't say about it.
It's wonder and awe at its finest.
It genuinely captures like the emotion you're feeling when you see something so awe-inspiring so well.
It's a dinosaur.
You did it. You crazy son of a bitch, you did it.
I'm trying to convince my girlfriend to play that at our wedding, but she doesn't want to be compared to a brontosaurus. So,
well, I think I would give you a standing ovation if you did that. But
yeah, well,
and I think me and Yash will give you standing ovations.
Good. I'll let her know you said so. But I mean, yeah. To finish my point of this whole thing, it's like you reach this peak of emotion when they land the helicopter, and then you bring it back down to conversation while they're driving, and then they bring it up, and it's like a slow crawl, and then you see it, and you hear the Brachiosaurus singing. And I once had someone say that he didn't like that scene because he thought it was kind of silly that Grant started crying. But me, an actual paleontologist, that scene brings tears to my eyes every time I watch it. And I have watched it countless times, and so it builds to the peak of, you first see it, and then it rears up on its legs, and it keeps bringing you up and then back down and up again, and the final crescendo is looking out on the vista and seeing this isn't just one, this is real, they're back. It's, oh my god, it's magic. It's magic, is what it is.
I mean, I think I truly believe there's either a film out there or a film that's yet to come that will deeply resonate with one person. So I feel like I can totally understand how like a scene like that means a lot to you, and how there are other movies that have similar moments that do something similar for me that maybe like someone else will not understand why. That's very cool.
Yeah,
I think I agree with this with Yash. Is that we all have that one movie, like in a theater, you sit and you're just like, this is something I want to do. This is something I want to do in the future, kind of a thing. Like, Liam, you're a paleontologist. I mean, that's something. It's like you could say to yourself, like, watching a Jurassic Park movie, like, damn, that's something I want to do in my life.
Mhm.
Or for me, personally, watching Jurassic Park, for me, this is something for me, it's always been, dude, how did it make this? How did it do this? And for me, when I get done with my degree, it's something I want to go to filmmaking, is actually make movies and be like, I saw this making this, like they made Jurassic Park. I want to make a movie, something similar to that. And not similar to dinosaurs, but make a movie in general. And that's the great thing about movies in general, is that they bring you in a sense of imagination that sometimes people go like, oh, that's far-fetched, but no, it isn't. It is real stuff that hits you, and you're just like, if they can make something that creative and something that amazing, I could do the same thing. And it just opens up imagination.
For sure. So one question I always like to ask guests on the show is, it's kind of a strange question to ask people who are talking about their favorite movie. So the question is, is there anything in this movie that you think you would change or that could have been done better? And if you think it's perfect, that's a valid answer too. I was just curious if you had anything to say on that.
I'm gonna make you laugh on this one. In Jurassic Park 3, when Alan's in the plane and then he turns around and sees the velociraptor going, Alan. Yeah, I would definitely change that.
Yeah,
But
talking dinosaur is. I mean, there are plenty of things that change in the sequels. At the very least,
but
the original,
I
I
mean,
would put the raptor in the original.
yeah, yeah. To be honest, I mean, as a Jurassic Park movie, as it goes, I would say maybe have more of the book influence into it. Like, couple of the books, in the book, there are a couple of those scenes that were actually very violent and very like, oh God, why didn't I put this in the movie? Um, Liam, if you remember the scene in which the Velociraptors actually attack the hotel,
Mm-hmm.
and Dr. Henry Wu actually dies.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been an actual amazing scene in my books. That would actually been really good. The river adventure, not so much, because they kind of already have the ride in Universal Studios. So I'm like, all right, that goes a pass. But if they want to bring Velociraptors on as vicious moments and showing as an intelligent animal, I would definitely say the hotel scene would have been that scene.
Yeah. See, that's why I talked about the HBO eight episode miniseries.
Yeah.
Because that way they can take the time to do all the things that are in the novel. Because honestly, I would love to see the river scene, which Yash, Grant and the kids are using a boat to get back to the visitor center, and the T-Rex attacks them. It's pretty cool, but I don't know, the pacing of the movie as it is so perfect. Honestly, I might just change little script things, like science things that mess me up. They use species wrong a whole lot. When Grant asks what the baby velociraptor is, he's like, what species is it? And Wu says, it's a velociraptor, but velociraptor is a genus, not a species. And that's something that like only someone like me would notice, but still it's that. And when he's like, dinosaurs and man, two species separated by 65 million years, that's another weird use of the word species. But like, I may just think it's perfect.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think it's a well-paced movie. I think the pacing could be fine-tuned maybe a little bit. The action scenes are great, but it does take a while to get to that initial T-Rex attack, but that by no means detracts from the whole overall experience. It's still
so like for a potential action scene early in the book, they actually get to see the T-Rex attack the goat. Would you have put that in there?
I mean, I don't know how it would compare, because at the same time, like, not seeing the T-Rex for so long does add an inherent like suspense. So yeah, it's
the
a great
reveal
movie.
is incredible.
Mm-hmm. So to wrap up our discussion today, I wanted to ask you guys one final question. You guys have already kind of answered this in a way like throughout the episode, but I wanted to ask you guys, if you came across someone who hasn't seen this movie and you wanted to convince them to watch it, what would you tell them? What's your sales pitch of this movie? Like kind of elevator pitch type of way to convince somebody to watch it.
I would probably say that it makes you feel more wonder with a little bit of terror. It does make you feel terror. I'm sure they know that, but it will make you feel more wonder than probably any movie that you can think of. And that may not be true for everyone, but that's my pitch.
What about you, Samid?
For me, it would be a sense of wonder and making you believe on things that you honestly think that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That would be something that I would draw people into this movie. Because, yeah, you know this from our parents, as Pakistani Indian parents as there are, is that you talk about movies of dinosaurs or Harry Potter.
My dad loves Jurassic Park. He saw it back in the day. It stresses my mom out, but my dad loves it.
Yeah. No, I mean that's something. It's like this. My dad liked it too. My mom likes it too. But for me,
they had the VHS when I was a kid.
Yeah. For me, I mean that's kind of it's a good sense of wonder and interesting. There is terror, but it's a more of a wonder, interesting of like what is Jurassic Park? Like what is that causes you to make sequels and apparently now a Netflix special that I need to watch. I'm on episode 2 right now.
I saw that. I haven't watched it, but I saw it came out.
It's a good sense of wonder. I mean that's all I could say. It's wonder and it's imagining on wondering of how life could be with dinosaurs.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would kind of say something similar to both of you. I would say the movie is a good balance because it generates wonder with some just incredible special effects for its time or for any standard, to be honest. But it also is a movie that when it's thrilling, it's mesmerizing because it builds the tension so well in those tension moments. And like when the movie needs to be thrilling, it's really thrilling, and when it needs to be imaginative and create wonder, it does a good job of that too. So yeah, I would say it's one of the best. It's one of the most. Jurassic Park is a part of pop culture, so it's like if you haven't seen it yet, you just got to watch it because you haven't seen it yet. It's just like a movie that is so talked about and so known about, so influential for so many people for different reasons.
To quote Swiss Army Man, if you don't know Jurassic Park, you don't know shit.
Clever girl.
So with that, we wrap up our discussion on this Jurassic Park. Thanks to all of you for listening. Thanks to Samid and Liam for joining us today. And from all of us at Cinema Convos, we hope you tune in next time.